Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Gear QA number 167. I hope you guys had a good week, and you can hope you can see and hear me fine. I hope, like I said, a couple things. As always, if you're first time watching the live show, all you got to know is you start the question with the question mark first, even if it's a comment, so that way I know it's for me, or it's a subject you want to talk about or a question you have. The other thing is, if you're watching the rebroadcast of this, I take the time to timestamp everything down below so that at least you can see the highlights of the questions and subjects we talked about if you just want to go right to them. Also, if you want to stream this or watch this or download this, I don't think you watch it. You download it as a podcast. It's on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, stuff like that. So again, there's a ton of ways to consume this episode. The funny thing to note, though, is that today, this episode, number 167, is officially the first episode of season 7 on the podcast version. So the podcast version does a different thing. Like it does 25 episodes and then it's a season. So I'm 167 on YouTube, but it's episode 1, season 7 on whatever the podcast format, I should say. So I've already pinned a bunch of guys' questions. So you guys were chatting before I got here. That's always great. I appreciate that. You guys saying hi to each other, which is always great. I think a lot of you, like me, kind of look forward to seeing what's going to go on. I actually got to see some of the comments for the first time. I never thought to look at the comments when I'm after the broadcast. So it was kind of cool. I got to see a lot of you guys, what you guys interact with and what you guys are talking about. So a couple things. Like I said, I have questions. I have them already. We can start with a few. I'm going to start with this one, which is about Reverb. Believe it or not, Reverb was this question that came up. It was the most emailed question this week. Definitely, as soon as that happened, everybody started emailing me. If you guys don't know, Reverb, I think August 5th, I could be off on the date, it's in August, is going to be raising the seller price, in other words, the commission charged to the seller, from 3.5% to 5%. Now, what I will tell you is that I think July 6th-ish last year on the live show, when Etsy bought Reverb, the question was, what do I think is going to happen when Etsy buys Reverb? And I said in that episode that I think that they'll wait a certain amount of time and then start raising prices, and probably after raising prices start decreasing some of the services, because they paid something like $400 million for Reverb, and of course they're going to want to make that money back. Now, what I didn't know, of course, I could throw a guess, which is what that was. What I wouldn't guessed and known is that we'd be in the middle of this COVID pandemic and all the other things, and it's really a horrible time to see them raise the price. So I know sometimes, like I said, I'm just giving you guys the information, but sometimes because it is a live QA, I know a lot of you are probably curious, like, what's my take on it? And my take on it is even though 1.5% doesn't feel like a lot, and to some people 5% feels like a lot, I think it's like a 40 or 45% increase in percentage of what they're taking. And it's bad timing, and here's why. I want to tell you something, and I'm not accusing Reverb of doing this. I have had really positive interactions with Reverb as a customer. I've never really worked with them as a YouTube channel, although I will say that they have approached me and talked to me about doing it. I just never had a chance. But that being said, this. In the middle of COVID, you guys may not know this, but a lot of people out there, including people like me, use affiliate links. Affiliate links are the links I put down below, and if you click them, sometimes if you buy something, the company, the affiliate, will give the channel a percentage of the sale, and sometimes a spiff. I don't really get a whole lot of spiffs, but like Reverb has spiffs, right? I think you can get $1 if I get somebody to sign up to be Reverb. Amazon, of course, being a huge affiliate for a lot of people. In fact, most channels have nothing to do with guitars. A huge amount of YouTube channels use Amazon as affiliates, right? So the reason I tell you that story is that in the middle of the pandemic, when everybody was at record highs of buying online, Amazon announced with very little time, just like Reverb, that they're going to be cutting basically their affiliate percentages from like 8 and 6% down to like 1 and 2%. Now, it's a little trickier than that because you get different percentages for different things. So I want to keep it kind of glossed over as a whole. Basically, what I tell you is I can tell you this. My affiliate links have taken about an 80% hit. Now, I'd like to also say they still do really well. I'm really happy that I have an ability to have another revenue stream. When you're working on YouTube, it's all about pennies and getting lots of pennies from different directions that can help you not only make any kind of living, but also subsidize any kind of crazy costs. You know what I mean? This podcast alone, you got to increase things like my new mic, the mic, which I love. It's expensive. It's an expensive thing. And I love doing the podcast, but let's be very clear. I don't need a $500 podcaster mic if I wasn't doing the podcast. So it's nice that if I'm making some revenues to pay for those kind of expenses as well. The whole point I'm telling you is at the worst time you could imagine of Amazon cutting affiliate links, cutting people's income in the middle of this mess, basically by saying, hey, we don't really need you because everybody's buying online. I don't think Reverb's intention was to be the same. I don't really doubt Amazon's reasoning for doing that, but I do doubt that Reverb had a evil thought that said, oh, in a couple months, because it's probably true, all mom and pop retailers, all small retailers are going to only be able to sell online. Let's face it, mom and pop retailers need online sales now more than they've ever needed it before. These appointments to go to the door and get your strings and picks and stuff, it's probably not working in a great way. And so buying on Reverb, let's be clear, like most of the stuff I bought on Reverb in the last 6 months has been from mom and pop shops. So to basically hit them when they probably need those pennies the most sucks. And I will say this. So here's what I'm on the record for. I think Reverb did not intentionally, that's my feeling, no facts based on this. I do not feel Reverb's intention was to take advantage of the fact that most of its sellers are going to need to sell at this time and that they basically can't say no to a price increase. There's no way to boycott them or stop because you need them. I also think that it sucks that they didn't think about that and maybe say, hey, look, this is an inevitable truth. We have to raise our fees to be more profitable. Things they cited in their thing was they were going to increase marketing and stuff like that. And I'm like, marketing? Everybody's on the freaking internet. You don't need marketing. Right now, let's be very clear. Right now, if you're an internet-based anything, you are hurt the least amount, okay? There is no one is out there confused that YouTube channels like mine are still doing okay, and the touring musicians are screwed, right? And I say that with some intensity because I don't think it's hard to understand right now that the brick and mortar walk-in spot is hurt and the online entity is not hurt as much. Online is just not as hurt as much. So it just sucks to see them. And like I said, if I'm a little pissed off, I'm a little irritated that they couldn't come up with any kind of compromise on that, right? It'd really be nice if there was a way that they could not do that to the mom and pop businesses. So there you go. Here's what I can tell you though. As always, we can't control the things we can't control. Here's what we can control. Don't forget that most of these mom and pop businesses, smaller businesses on Reverb, go on there, look at their seller history, verify that they're a good seller, that they're a good business, okay? And then before you click that buy Reverb button so that they lose 5%, and we talked about this only 2 weeks ago, what retailers make. In fact, if you go to that video, what retailers make, you will see tons of retailers and other business professionals echoing my sentiment and my information that it's accurate. You understand that 5% out of the already low percentage that they're making is a lot to give up. And especially, think of this, if they could give it up, they'd probably rather give it to you. So what I'm telling you is, don't forget, because I just did it the other day, that when you click on the Reverb, you're like, before you hit the buy button and you see that they're a legitimate store, click, I'll tell you what to do. You go to their seller ID, click that, hit policies, and under there, there'll be a website. So in other words, you can go to their actual website. And basically, that's what I'm getting at. Don't make it complicated. Just have to go to their actual website, buy it direct from them. Two things will happen. Most of the time, they're not going to charge you sales tax. That's a little trick for you. So if you buy off the Reverb website, if you go to a mom and pop store, they're probably going to not charge the sales tax. And so you'll save that. And they're not going to pay a Reverb fee because you're buying direct from them. So there's a way to do that. So there's ways that we can do that. And that will help. And that's what I'll do. I'll focus. I'll put as much money in the pocket, the person I want to have it as much as I can. So that's my take on that. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I saw some of the internet was very upset. I saw they were calling Reverb Feverb, something like that. But as a whole, like I said, normally, hey, let's be honest, Reverb is a great quality. I've said this about like Sweetwater too, so I'm echoing with Reverb. Great quality selling platform. Most of us have had great experiences. Of course, there's all kinds of bad experiences I've read about too, but most of all, you're having good experiences. Reverb has really stepped up the game as far as I'm concerned from eBay and places like that. But still sucks to see that they're doing this right now. It's like I said, it's not the fees that I'm upset about. I think everybody else seems to be pissed off that they're charging more money. More money is more money, but the timing of it just couldn't be any crappier. So there you go. There's on that note. A lot of guys super chatting all of a sudden. Hey, before I answer my first super chat, which I will get to, let me hit a couple of the pinned responses or pinned questions. There's people that come in and leave questions before the show even starts, and I try to always get them. The first one of the day was Jose. Jose said, hello, Phil. I'm thinking about buying a Schecter guitar with a compound radius. And if you guys don't know what compound radius is, it's the radius of a fretboard, the top where the frets are and the strings are on top of. The radius is basically how flat that is. So the bigger the number, the flatter that is. 16 is flatter than 12, 12 is flatter than 10, 10 is flatter than 9.5, and 9.5 flatter than 7.25 or 7.5. You get the idea. So what are we getting at? Okay, so he says, hey, he's looking at a Schecter with a compound radius fretboard. Compound meaning that flatter radius changes. So usually it starts out with a lower number and goes to a bigger number. So I don't know what Schecter's is. It's probably 12 to 16. Fender will use something like 9.5 to 14. There's different ones. Jackson, I think, was always 12 to 16. So again, so in other words, as you go up on the fretboard towards the 12th fret, it gets flatter and flatter, a little easier to shred, and rounder at the top, a little easier to chord at. So what else? So he's saying, hey, he's looking at that, and he's a lefty. Oh, so the choices are limited. I understand. He says he can't go to a local music store and try one out. What's my advice to try? Here's what I will tell you. I personally feel like most players, the average Joe or maybe the average Jose, right? Average Phil player cannot feel a compound radius. I've never picked up a guitar and went, compound radius, huh? It's something that usually you can appreciate because the setup and the action is really good. There's some cool features, but it's not something that's so dramatic. So what I'm telling you is I would do this, in my opinion. Take the lowest number. So if the Schecter is 12 to 16, again, I don't know the exact specs of the Schecter compound radius. I've never looked on their website for specs, but let's say it's 12 to 16, or if it's 10 to 14 or whatever. I would say play a guitar that has the lowest the lowest number radius. So if it's 12 to 16, play a guitar that has 12, it'll feel the same. It'll be a little bit different, especially 12 to 16. It's such a small amount, right? Small amount. It's cool. I don't know for sure. I've always felt like Jackson either invented that, Grover Jackson, or he's the one that definitely made it popularized. I've never saw it until I saw it on Jackson guitars, and then it kind of got everywhere after that. So somebody out there is like, no, is this guy in Covisco or whatever, but it's probably true. But I'm just telling you where I first saw it and played it and seen it be a thing. But that would be my thing, Jose. Check out, just play a guitar with the lowest number, and that'll generally feel the same. And then, of course, then the neck carve's gonna be different. But if you're familiar with Schecters, you're familiar with it. In other words, don't stress it. Compound radius is not so dramatic that it's one of those cool features that we can now do very easily with CNC machines, because I'm pretty sure back in the day those guys were doing that stuff by hand. A little different world, but the CNC machines can do it, and it's pretty cool. Let me get to some super chatty things. I don't think they're called super chats anymore, although they do call you supers now. So they were calling them super chats. No, it says super chats. I thought they changed the name. So here's the first super chat of the day. It's from Richard. Richard says, hey, Phil, thanks for the advice on the Heritage. I went on Reverb and found one for a smoking deal. Best decision ever, right? Always save a little scratch. That's the best thing we get to do. Use guitars. One of the downfalls, I always feel bad. If you notice, I kind of mentioned it lately on more and more videos. I always feel like in videos, I always forget to mention used. And I did it just recently when I did the Keeley pedal review. I mentioned that it's a great pedal, and I talked about that. One of the things I want to start doing more in my reviews of new product is mention. Sometimes you can't because like that SE PRS that's not out yet. I mean, it's just out, so there's no used. But maybe mention what the used market is bearing, which is pretty easy thanks to companies like Reverb that we just kind of got mad at. They put like a blue booking kind of pricing system out there. So yeah, man, if you get a Heritage Plus, like I said, let's be honest, like I think right now you can get a deal from that's what I said. That's the tough thing. I'm circling back around, Richard, just so you know. I'm circling back around this. Like I said, I'm still sucks that Reverb has its fee increase right now because it's hurting the businesses. But as buyers, Reverb's still one of the best places to go. And that's why, like I said, that's why I don't think it's wrong. I don't think they don't deserve the price increase. I just wish they could have held out or maybe came up with something like a different fee structure or something. I don't know. Anyways, or give more time. A couple weeks is not enough time in today's world. It would be really nice if they said, hey, it takes effect January 1st and let everybody have Christmas sales or back to school sales or whatever. But I'm really glad you got the guitar. We're going to go to Steven. Steven says, favorite Tele pickups, favorite wiring for traditional Tele. My favorite Tele pickups, like I said, forever, I love the BG 1400, which is the Billy Gibbons by Seymour Duncan. I just recently switched to the Lindy Fralin Blues. I'm trying those right now. I think that's my favorite right now is a Lindy Fralin Blues set. That's the one I'm using. And I think the one I'm using, because if you're familiar with Lindy Fralin, you'll know what this means. Mine is the Lindy Fralin Blues set 5% hotter. And so, I only did that because that's what I found available on Reverb when I bought them. I even read a thing where Lindy Fralin's like the whole, 5% or 10% hotter thing's kind of silly. The best ones are the stock ones, but I didn't see a stock ones when I bought the ones I bought. So that's the ones I use. Wiring, I use a 4-way switch on some of my Teles, and I use a 3-way switch on the others. And I do have 2 videos coming soon on Teles. When I say coming soon, they're in the pipeline to make. I haven't made them, which is the red Tele behind me that's moving because it's got a ghost, is getting a new bridge. And it's getting a new neck pickup, and that neck pickup is going to make me have to change out the volume pot and add a new component to it. I don't want to give the giveaway yet, so I'll do that. But I like the 4-way switch a lot, so I think the 4-way switch is pretty cool. If you guys ever tried it, I highly suggest it because you get that kind of that louder position, which is nice for solos and sometimes pushing the clean amp a little harder. Jack says, thoughts on the EBMM Majesty? Just bought one and loving it. Well, he's probably maybe listening at work. My buddy Eric's probably listening right now with his 20 Majesties in his room. I'm just kidding. He's got like 10. No, I don't know how many he's got. But he loves them. I've played all of his. And I love the guitar and the idea of the quality of the guitar. It's just not my feel. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels great, though. It just doesn't fit me, right? I don't know if it's just I'm too fat or too tall or too whatever. It's just not right. But the guitar, I love everything about it. I love the 3-way switches, how they're tucked in. I love the quality. I love the way it looks. It just doesn't sit right in my lap for some reason. It's like not in the position I want to be in. And it's probably because to me, if I was a huge Les Paul shape fan, right? And it's by fan meaning fan of the shape and how it feels. I think the EBM, the Majesty, is like that way improved, right? Where I'm a Strat guy, and I don't think there's anything more comfortable than a Strat to me. It's just, that's how it is. And Teles, too, to be honest with you. Teles shapes are fine. Especially like the ones behind me with the G&L, behind me with the arm carve. To me, the Strat is just the most comfortable shape. So, love the guitars, but I still prefer Strats. And I'm not proud of that because a Strat's kind of a very pedestrian, boring kind of guitar to be in love with. But it is what it is. That's what I like. Ben says, I love the channel. Thank you. Well, and then Ben just jumped. Okay, Ben, here it is. Ben loves the channel. Have you played 14 Gibson SG Futura P90 neck? I have not. Not that I remember. Humbucker bridge, 15 decibel boost. Just found one local for $600. Never owned USA. all Epis. So I don't know what the last part is, but have I played? So I think he's saying a 2014 Gibson SG Futura. Is it Futera? Futera? What? I don't know what that is. Futuar? Futera? Futura? P90. It's got P90s in the neck. I don't remember playing one, so I don't know. It's a horrible answer, but it's just the only answer I got. Cheddar Kung Pao in the house, guys. Hey, what's up, Cheddar? As you guys know, Cheddar's a friend, and he has a great channel as well. And he's got a question for me. It's going to be fun. It says, Phil, what do you think of Gibson's new lawsuit? Aw, Chad, really? I knew you were going to go there. Are they as good as vintage lawsuits? He went for the joke, folks. You got to give him props for going for the joke. Here's what's crazy. I can't even keep track. Is this the lawsuit where, hold on, who are they suing now? Hold on. They're suing the company for making the Imperial. Is that what it is? Somebody chime me in. There's a company out there that makes a guitar that looks like the Imperial Epiphone. Again, I'm chewing off the memory. I read the article. I think it was on Guitar World or somewhere, and I read it real fast. And then Gibson's basically saying the company that's making them said that Gibson didn't make them, and that's why they're making them. And then Gibson's like, no, we made them for artists only, and that's why we're doing it. You know what? I'll tell you, I am just so bored of hearing about Gibson lawsuits. In the fact that it's funny how it almost could be, and again, I don't want to start a conspiracy, but it almost could be a strategy to just sue everyone so much so that we just get sick of talking about it. And then when they do something really crazy, we won't notice. It just seems like, what does it seem like? It seems like I wish we could just all figure out how to make better guitars. Wouldn't that be nice? Like the best comment I ever read on any video, might have been mine, somebody else's comment from a viewer who said, man, why don't you take all that money you're giving to lawyers and just make your guitars better? Sound like a great suggestion to me. I am a Gibson fan. Think about this, and I understand intellectual property rights and wanting to protect them. We all understand that. But it just seems like Evan Ward said Gibson is suing the entire nation of China. It's just, to me, at some point, here's my thought. Let's go here and let's think about this. At some point, you would think, you don't want your name synonymous with, like, think about this. You have to be a certain age. Like, my kids wouldn't understand this reference. So the younger viewers, you won't probably understand this reference. Postal worker, going postal. Going postal has no meaning to my kids. Like, if they said, hey, the guy was crazy and he pulled a gun, I'd be like, oh, he went postal? They'd be like, I don't understand what that means. Because they don't remember in the late 80s, early 90s, when some postal workers, a bunch of them across the country, just started going crazy and shooting up post offices when they got fired. And that's my vague remembrance of what happened then, but you get the idea. My point is, I don't think the postal workers really appreciated being, connected to the going postal, meaning going crazy. And I just think that at some point, you don't want everybody who says, oh, lawsuit or suing, the first thing you think is Gibson. Going Gibson is, right? Somebody goes, oh, a lawyer sent me a letter and he went Gibson on me, right? Like, imagine that. That's what I'm saying, is at some point they got to knock it off, because otherwise going Gibson will be a thing. He went Gibson on me. So I got a Gibson letter. There you go. I'm done picking on Gibson. That's it for the show. No more. There you go, Cheddar. We got those two things out. Too many GTR 1952 says too many lawsuits in general. Well, you know what it is, and this is hopefully this is taking us right direction on this show, the live show. It's fun to talk about guitars. It's definitely fun to talk about the guitar industry. There's all kinds of conversations I definitely want to have. To be honest with you, at some point, I'm such a guitar nerd. Yes. Do I want to talk about the accounting of companies? Do I want to talk about logistical sales? Yes. Do I want to talk about lawsuits between companies? Yes, to some point. But I never want that be the thing I care about or talk about the most. I always want to talk about, the bridge materials and guitars and music, right? Like, hey, music's first. We talk about music first, right? Hopefully. This is a gear channel, so we're going to focus on the gear point. But it should be music, then the gear, then maybe the inner politics of these companies, right? All right. Evan says, don't go full Gibson. You never go full Gibson. Some of you guys will definitely understand what that comment means. You never go full Gibson. All right. On to a new subject. By the way, on a side note, the one thing I will tell you is sometimes, and this is again, because I'm trying to be more balanced with the show, sometimes when I say something and I think a lot of people walk away with maybe a misconception, because I've had people say things to me like, I know you hate this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I love that. I have 3 of them. But with the Gibson thing, one thing I will say is they are becoming the poster child for all this crap. But to be honest with you, this industry is just full of crazy litigious people, right? If you think about it, if you get any guys fans of Rick Beato, he does great information about the music industry. And the music industry is litigious as hell and crazy, right? And they go after the throats of everybody all the time. It's like this whole industry is really, and I think maybe every industry is focused on money, but this industry seems to have a weird, not only litigious side to it, but a very spiteful side, right? It's very angry side. And maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's, so it's, what I'm saying is it's not new. It's not new news. It's not new that the one company's doing it now. They all kind of do it. So, all right. We're going to get back on subject. We're going to talk about Dave. What does Dave want to talk about? He wants to talk about Gibson. I'm just kidding. He says, hey, best way to sell used gear in the COVID time, Reverb, eBay, Craigslist, consignment, etc. What's the best price? Way to get best price. Okay, so during COVID, I think the best way to sell gear right now is on Reverb and eBay. And Craigslist is up to you, but Craigslist is a hard thing to say because it's so connected to your local environment. Personally, where I live in Phoenix, Craigslist sucks. Now, when I usually say that to people who live in other cities, they go, oh, you don't know, mine really sucks. So maybe it sucks everywhere, but it just seems like it extra sucks here. I've gotten a couple wins with Craigslist. In fact, remember, I did a live show with Ralph, and we went and bought his SG. I went and bought him an SG on Craigslist. So, I mean, it works, right? But me personally, what I like to do for selling stuff is put it on Reverb or eBay, sometimes both, right? It's free listing for both. So that's the good news, okay? Remember back in the day, eBay used to charge you for listing. That's why I'm saying when I was talking about Reverb and the fees, I'm not trying to tie this back to Reverb, but remember eBay used to have higher fees and used to charge us for listings? Remember you used to have to pay to list stuff? Anyways, list stuff, and here's what you got to do. You sell gear the same way you sell your home, okay? You list it for the price you think some crazy person might buy it. Not absurd. Don't be dumb. Don't put something for $1,500 if you know the best you've ever seen is 12. What I'm saying is when I see Reverb say it's worth between $1,000 and $1,500, maybe put it for the 15 or the 14. Put it on the higher end and put the offer button out. That's the best way. That's what's great about that. And wait, right? And here's what I will tell you. Don't take the first offer in the first 24 hours unless it's really good. Because I used to do that. When we used to do that, you list something, and like the first 2 hours, somebody go, hey, I'll give you 12. And I was like, oh, I was asking 14. Hey, you should do it. It's fast sale. I realized, and then you get the email right after that going, did you sell that? I was getting the cash from my buddies or whatever. So best advice is post it for the price you want. Wait. If you can wait. If you're in a need for cash, we're talking different strategies, okay? We're talking about wait. Just wait. That's great. It's gonna get seen, and somebody will give you the right price for it or the price you want. So there you go. Michael says, just bought a Yamaha ACM1 acoustic. Beautiful. Love it. Do you recommend changing the nut bridge pins from plastic to bone, bronze pins? Is it easy to set up? Generally, acoustics are generally easy to set up. There's not a few things you have to change on them. You're going to adjust the neck a little bit. Usually you don't have to adjust the bridge by either shimming it or sanding it down, but it depends on the guitars. Most guitars, if acoustic is right, okay, so there's 2 ways you should receive acoustic. I don't know if you guys should know this or not. Either acoustic should be perfect, the way you pick them up and you're happy, or the action should be high. You never want to buy an acoustic where the action isn't either perfect for you or high. And when action is low, it's very scary because that usually means you have to shim the bridge or put a new bridge in it, bridge saddle, I should say. And So that's the concern. Now, I'm not saying don't buy them, just saying that's what you look for. That's what I look for in acoustic, right? If the action's high, usually most manufacturers ship the acoustics with the bridge saddle being a little high, okay? So that's not a big deal. Changing out the nut. Yes, changing from plastic is always a good decision. Plastic is horrible. I think the worst thing you can do is, here's what I want you to picture in your head, and this is a little way I've learned to explain why a nut and a bridge on a guitar is important, is this. Imagine all the materials you can make a nut out of, and let's say the first material is a sponge. You'd be like, that is horrible. Yes, a sponge is horrible. And then a piece of rubber, which would be very horrible, but not as horrible as sponge. And then after rubber would be a piece of plastic. And then there's different kinds of plastic, but we'll just say plastic. And after plastic, then you would probably want something like, in my opinion, probably bone. Some people are going to say graphite, then bone. To be totally fair, I think in my mind, it goes sponge, rubber, plastic, new bone, which is a man-made kind of Corian type plastic bone material, then bone, then graphite. I think graphite's always my favorite, but I like bone a lot. So to me, it's 50-50. I could put bone or graphite in a guitar. Now, you can use brass and even aluminum, especially transparent aluminum for your Star Trek fans. So you can use those materials too, but they're just not as common. You don't see them as much. I have no problem with those. To me, it's just my opinion. The hardest material is the best for me, from experience. It's a wearable item, okay? So think about this. Strings wear into the grooves. The nut is a wearable item, just like the frets. So to me, the best material you can make it out of, the longer it lasts. Now, some people are going to go, yeah, but the brass is tinny or the harder material is brighter. Yeah, maybe that's a concern. If that's something that concerns you, you have to weigh that in. For me, that's never been a real concern for me. The concern for me is dealing with it later. It's because the problem with having a bunch of guitars is at some point when a guitar gives you trouble, you kind of really out. This is going to be a horrible way to say this, but sometimes when a guitar is giving me trouble, it feels a lot easier to take it out back and shoot it than it is to fix it, because I got another guitar to worry about. So you guys, for the record, I don't literally take guitars out and shoot them, but you understand. I think the analogy works, right? It's more inept, more likely to get rid of it than fix it. So that's what I would do for that. Bridge pins, that's on you. I did a video showing some brass pins and what they did, and I've done video. It's not that they don't make a difference. I just didn't care. It didn't affect me. Some people are going to be different. Again, though, I prefer maybe some harder material ones, like ebony ones, wood, or some better type plastic ones than some of the cheap plastic ones. But I don't think that necessarily makes the tone change so much as other factors. So there you go. Scar My Guitar said, here's 1,000 pennies, spend them wisely. So I know poor Sean at Scar My Guitar sent me a kit build, and I will get to it one day. It's on the list. In fact, I almost texted him this week to say, hey, it's going to be, and I was like, oh, don't do that to him. And I just did it to him right now. Yeah, he sent me a kit build. This is going to be a kit build. I can't remember. Sean probably remembers. I don't remember if we were going to, either we're giving it away or we're going to sell it and then give the money to charity. I can't remember which one we decided to do with it, but I'm probably, kind of just probably do a promotion with it, give it away. It just depends. I feel like sometimes instead of giveaways, because only one person gets something out of it, maybe the charities gives a little bit more people to raise some money for charity, and everybody gets to see the videos anyways. Neil says, and Neil, you gotta wait, everybody, as I drink water. And I horribly into the microphone, I apologize. In fact, I went to look and I go, yeah, I've got my Know Your Gear logo on my cup. So you know what it is? I always drink from this side in every video, and I think when I'm watching back and I'm indexing it, I'm like, why am I holding the cup the wrong way? I need to promote. That's brand. That's worth like 30 cents in promotion right there. Think about this. A company would have to pay a YouTuber 16 to 17 cents for this much ad time, right? Look at that. And I get that ad time for free. I don't have to pay myself anything. So I just promoted my cup as I'm swallowing too close to the mic. Anyways, Neil says, hey, Phil, I'm looking at buying my first 7-string and looking at a Schecter C7 Apocalypse. Do you know this model? And is there a default 7-string tuning that you would use starting out? Stay safe. Well, the default tuning for most players are going to be the low B. A 7-string guitar is a 6-string guitar with an extra low B string. And that's the main thing. I don't have my 7-string behind me. At one point in my life, I think I had I don't know, like 7 or 8 7-strings, and that's all I was playing. I was in a 7-string thing for a while. And for anybody that's thinking, it wasn't when Limp Bizkit was cool. So it had nothing to do with that. So anyways, the point is now I have one. It's my Ibanez RG7620. And I think my favorite one I ever owned was my Petrucci Music Man, but that was some real large cash on that one, and I didn't play it very often. And I was thinking I think I have $350 into my Japanese made RG7620. So I thought, hey man, why don't I ditch? I think I ditched the $1,500 used guitar. So to answer your question, I love the Schecter ones. The Schecter Apocalypse I have played. I like the neck. To me, 7-strings are about the neck, man. They got to get the neck right. Some of them do not. Schecter, I think, is one of the companies that does it really well, that has a neck that's not so chunky, because some of those necks can be a workout, right? I mean, it's just nuts. 7-string is a guitar that I will tell you this. In today's day and age, I don't know what your conviction is on a 7-string and what your desires are. But if I was going to give a friend some advice about a 7-string, man, you can find them dirt cheap. So I would say buy a really cheap one. Play that for a couple months, and if you're still in the mood to throw down $1,000 for the Schecter, buy it. If I'm just telling you. I know that's not an exciting thing. That's more of a practical thing. And I know I mention all the time that this isn't really a practical world we live in. We live in the artistic, collecting fun guitars and playing stuff world. But honest to goodness, man, dude, right now, I bet you with little effort, I could find you a decent 7-string for $150. That easy. And because they're out there. Because here's why. What did I say? I said headless guitars. Let's see if I can top the one I did on the did a podcast or did a live show when I said headless guitars are like stairs, right? The older you are, the more you don't want them. 7-strings are like treadmills. Everyone bought one and then sold it for nothing. Well, at least the fat guys like me did. But actually, so I still have my treadmill. Don't get on. Okay. But back to the important part. 7-strings are like treadmills. You buy them used on Craigslist because everyone's selling you a used one easy. So that's what I would do for the 7-string. Do that, man, especially if you don't know. Joseph says the PRS 7-string. You know what? I loved my PRS 7-string. I had the SE and the 25-inch scale one. I loved it. And like I said, it was just because I didn't play it. And that's all it is. And there's something about 7-strings I still love. That's why I have my RG. And I think about getting them all the time. But like I said, don't be afraid. Check out those cheap ones. They're there. You can buy a much better 7-string guitar used than you can buy a 6-string guitar used. In other words, there's always somebody trying to dump one. The Convert says, hey man, hey Phil, I know players selling gear to stay afloat. Yes, unfortunately I do too. I like getting a deal, but I'm conflicted these days when it might be benefiting from others' misery. Can you relate? Yeah, of course, we can all relate. The reality is this. So there's two things you have to think about. And I like to always defer to my own mindset because if you go, hey, he's an asshole, then you go, don't be like him. And if you think I'm okay, dude, then you go, okay, well, maybe I'll emulate that a little bit. And so that's basically where I'm going to go with this. Let's be very clear. You make good deals when it's like real estate, right? Death and divorce is when you're going to get a deal on a house, okay? Guitars, unfortunately, work the same way. The best deals you're ever going to get are when somebody's in a hard way. So this is even compounded so much. Think of this. For 12 years, I had this retail business where I would buy gear off people. And let's be honest, they come in off the streets and they're just in a hard way, man. You know what I mean? And there's two things you have to weigh out. There's good business sense, which says, hey, you take advantage of the business opportunity that's presented in front of you. And then there's good sense, or maybe humanity or kindness, and you factor in that. So that's what your argument is, right? You're talking about the angel devil on your shoulder. Do I take the deal and say, you know what, life pans out and maybe the next time he'll win, this time I won? Or do you say, hey man, there's always a good, you got to take care of people. Here's what I can tell you. I do this weird thing where I will fight for the deal no matter what, and then I will give back. I've done this many times. It's like, so I don't know what it is. It's kind of like there is something exciting about getting a deal. And there is something, everybody loves like, hey man, I could have spent $300 and I spent $250 and now I have $50 left. And that just seems like good sense. So there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is if you're buying a piece of gear and you know the person's in a hard way, okay, you could just say, hey, I'll take the deal. In other words, what I'm saying is if you know they're gonna sell for $3 and you know that's cheap, too cheap to buy it, okay, go ahead and do it. But like I said, after you do it, it's okay to say, hey man, you know what? Thanks for the deal. Here's an extra $100. So you see what I'm saying? There's a way you can always give back a little bit. What I will tell you on that note too is another thing too, and this is what I did in the store. And again, hopefully this makes sense. I always told myself I want to be the least manipulative guy. Does it make sense? I don't know if I'm saying this right. I don't have I never really thought about it and had to say it out loud. What I'm basically trying to say is I always like to think that whatever I did to the person was the best that person probably had the opportunity to get. Does that make sense? So in other words, if they went to 10 stores and 10 stores gave them an offer, I hoped that my offer was the best to give them. So that's not always the case. You know what I mean? Because you're guessing, but that's what it is. So yes, so to answer your question, you should always do your best to take care of people and be nice, but also, like I said, you have to do this. Now, some people, I have good friends that are going to flat out tell me when they see this, they don't care because, like I said, you win some and you lose some. That's the saying. Again, you have to decide. So, all right. Let's see. What else? Oh, we have another question. Joseph. Hold on, Joseph. It says, Phil, I bought an FSR. FSR means Fender Special Run Tele because of your review vid. Oh, man, that's good and bad. So far, I like it. It's a keeper. Time will tell. When do you remove plastic from new guitar? I do it immediately, compulsively. I peel the labels off my beers, too. So if that drives you nuts, I'm sure that will make you nuts as well. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Think about this. I've received guitars. I've bought guitars where the guitars are 20 years old and the original plastic's on them and the parts still look brand new and I go, psh, tear it right off. So, yeah. When do you do it? That's when I do it. When should you do it? I don't know. What I will tell you is this. If you leave the plastic on too long, I do have a video that shows you how to get the glue off because it does kind of like an acetone, it kind of etches into the plastic, but it can be fixed, and I have a video on that. It's how to remove plastic off a pickguard. It's not one of my highest viewed videos, but it's funny. Everybody who's ever needed it has been like, man, I needed this. But yeah, and my FSR Tele, which is right there, I already inked the plastic off. In fact, that guitar, I'm already planning to do stuff to it, which is, like I said, it's getting a new bridge, and it's getting one new pickup. That's the only thing. I'm not changing the tuning keys, by the way, which is funny. It has the Cluson style keys, non-locking. I'm going to leave those alone. The bridge is not a. I love the bridge. It's not a intonation issue. It's a tone issue. I'm going to change the bridge to warm up the guitar a little bit. The guitars are really bright, and I think that's probably what the guitar should sound like. But I'm forcing it to do what I want, forcing it to sound the way I want. Just silly. Okay, hold on. Jeff says, got a new Kramer Assault Plus, a Les Paul style with a JB. That's the Jeff Beck Seymour Duncan pickup in the bridge and the jazz in the neck. Love it, but cheaper electrical parts, brand type resistors, recommendations. Need LP style 3-way. 2 push pulls. Yeah, well, I'm a big proponent for changing out the electronics more than anything else, even more so than pickup sometimes. Changing out the potentiometers. The reason is because if you know you're going to keep the guitar for any length of time, those parts are specifically going to wear out the easiest and the fastest. And this is an argument that I've always had with a lot of players who are like, who cares? Well, I'm like, well, here's the problem. It's not who cares. It's they go out in the worst times. If you have a cheap 3-way switch or a cheap output jack or a cheap potentiometer, it's always going to fail at the worst possible time. And here's the sad part. I know a lot of you guys, you're not gigging musicians. You're at home and you're hobbyists and you're playing and you're like, oh, who cares if it goes out? You know when it goes out? When you're trying to show your friend. It's like the worst thing. You're like, hey, Dave, check. Oh, crap. Wait, what's going on here? Right? And maybe that's not embarrassing for you and maybe it's not a problem, but it still sucks. So if you're going to swap that stuff, that's when I would do it. And that's when I would do it. Recommendations. I like Switchcraft for output jacks. I like Bourne's potentiometers for pots. Basically, I don't really focus on the high-end stuff for me. Personally, with my guitars, I just stay away from the lowest stuff. Oh, I left my phone on. Look at that. Figure that out. For the record, my phone is like never on. So let me do that. That's why I didn't think to look. But hey, you know what? That's a great segue. I'm going to tell you guys why my phone was on, because it's never on. I don't like talking. It's funny. I have a show where I talk for an hour and a half. I don't like talking. I don't like talking on the phone. But I had something happen this week, and I want to share with you. It's like a show and tell thing. I'm actually going to show you at the end of the show. I want to show you what Justin sent me, the stuff we talked about a couple weeks ago. But right now, I want to say thank you. I had this very interesting and long conversation with Larry DiMarzio and Wilson from DiMarzio, and this is something we've had a couple conversations now, and it's been great, and I've learned so much, and they're so kind I'm asking crazy questions about DiMarzio history and all this stuff. As you guys know, I did the 5 things video, and through this conversations back and forth, apparently, which is nice. Apparently, Larry has felt like he's gotten some kind of worth from me talking. So I actually set this up so I can show you. Here it is. That's Reverb. He sent me this. He sent me some wine and cheese from Beverly Hills. It came today. Literally came today. So we're very excited about this because, it's a COVID. My wife has been on me because I've been working nonstop. And we're trapped in the house, literally, because it's really hard to go anywhere. It's not really real, and it's 108 outside, as you guys know. And he sent me this beautiful shipment, and it came today. And it's like I said, it's really cool. So for the record, no beer tonight. It's going to be wine and cheese. Something maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't know, but it's going to happen. And I just wanted to show you guys, not to like brag. Please don't take it that way. I've got to tell you guys seriously. I have needed something like this. I don't even know how to explain this to you. Not that I needed a gift or I needed cheese or I needed wine, maybe liquor, but I needed, and that's what, like I said, with Justin too, I don't want to take away from Justin because Justin sent me something just a week ago and it's the same kind of feeling. It was like this, man, whew, you know what I mean? It's just kind of nice. And I know sometimes it sucks when you guys are watching these YouTube channels like mine and we're like, look what this company sent me, this guitar. But you got to understand, no company's giving you anything, okay? They're trading. They're like, hey, sometimes not even that. As you guys know, I'll review a guitar and then it goes back to the company. I don't get anything for that. But sometimes they do. They leave the gear, and sometimes there's all kinds of other arrangements they have where hey, if you do a bunch of videos, maybe they'll let you pick a piece of gear or something. There's all kinds of stuff. But the important part of the story is that's not free. That's an exchange. That's my time. If I was a plumber, it'd be no different than if somebody said, hey, if you plumb my bathroom, I'll give you a guitar. Although that's cool, I guess, because you get a guitar, it's not free. It's not somebody just giving you a gift for the sake of, hey, thank you. That literally was just him saying thank you. You know what I mean? And I don't even know why, because I swear to God, I think the conversation was definitely, I was getting more out of it and learning more about it than ever before. So there you go. I thought I would share a little segue on that. Anyways, so let's get back to the, what are we talking about? We were talking to Jeff. Push-pull parts and stuff like that. I don't know how I got, I'm lost. So we're going to go back to the questions. Hold on. Maybe I was a little more emotionally connected to that cheese and wine. I also feel kind of very classy. Cheese and wine is a very classy gift, right? It's like, I never saw myself as like a cheese and wine kind of person, but I may be. Maybe in a couple weeks, you guys might hear me go, I'm on that. So anyways, okay. Oh, Quartz, I don't know how to say it. Collins says, Phil, I would never put in the work to do this channel. I enjoy the perks. You know what's funny is, I'll tell you the weird thing about these YouTube gigs that all these channels have, and not all, but a lot of them, and is this. It's nice because there's a lot of benefits. It's funny though, one thing that I think people lose a connector to, is that a large part, again, not all, a large part of channels didn't even know there's reward to this, right? You know what I mean? You just start making this content. So that's why I tell people, I go, if you want to do it, you should do it, because you'll never probably predict what it is that's going to happen. And there might be benefits you'll never foresee. I never foreseen any of the benefits that's happened on this channel. But what I will tell you is sometimes you do look back and you go, when somebody's kind of slamming you about something, you're thinking, man, you know what's funny? I was doing all this work for nothing, not because I thought there was an opportunity. I was just doing it. So there you go. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that sometimes it's hard work. It is. It's sometimes it's the easiest thing I've ever done in my life, and sometimes it's the hardest. It's weird. Let's see. Grumpy says you need liquor and cigars. Yeah, I don't think cigars are ever going to fly in my house. My wife, I don't know. I don't think I've ever tried a cigar. So never. I know somebody gave me a cigar when my son was born, but I never smoked it. Is that bad luck? Now I'm just wondering, was I supposed to? Is that a thing? Don't tell me if it was. I don't want to know. Anyways, okay, so let's go to Christopher. Christopher says, thoughts on Nash guitars. I just got a 2 humbucker Tele, and I'm in love. Best feeling guitar I've ever played. If you guys don't know, Nash Guitars is a company. They are really known for making Strat and Tele style guitars, but I think Nash also makes Les Paul style guitars. Nash is another one of these builders, high-end builders. Very, I'll just say Tom Anderson, Sir, Nash, Crook Tellys are like that, Grosh. There's a lot of high-end builders out there, Nags, you know what I mean, that just build high-end guitars. I worked on 2 Nash guitars, just doing setups for friends and stuff. They were very high-end custom shop Fenders to me, so no complaints. I played maybe 1 or 2 at Carter's Vintage Guitars in Nashville. I think every time I saw a Nash, I would pick one up at Carter's, and I think both times I went to Carter's, there was Nash guitars for their play. So yeah, definitely like them. A lot of money, man. So you spent the scratch because they're a lot of money even used. So Christopher, enjoy. It's a good guitar. It's definitely expensive, but like I said, it's a quality instrument for sure. Aaron says best guitar wall hanger for the money. You know what? I only use string swing. This is the only broken record I have. You'll never see me be so broken recordy. Now, this I gotta tell you just because of the fun of it. I've always been able to easily tell you guys, not only do I love string swing, it's the only wall hanger I've ever used, but now they sent me these. In other words, I reached out to them and asked String Swing. I said, I want to change the room and I want to go from the sideways ones to the verticals back. And I wanted to see if they would make me a deal on the 22 I needed, or 20. Whatever 5 I bought, and they just sent them to me, and it's probably because of all the constant So I'm saying that's a reverse sponsorship, right? I kept saying I love them, and then they wouldn't take my money, which is sometimes the best thing to ever happen to you when you're ready to buy something, and then they're like, your money's no good here, and you're like, this is awesome. So they sent those to me. So the reason I'm telling you that is just to disclose to you that now, obviously there's some bias there on top of that. But what I will tell you is this. People use Hercules. There's all kinds of brands out there. I have no complaints about most of the brands because, one, I've either never used them, or two, I have nothing to base that off of. What I will tell you is this. I've never had a single problem in my life with string swings, and it's all I've been using for over 20 years, including in my shop. Even when my original store was 1,400 square feet. When we moved to 3,200 square feet, we ripped all the hangers out of the walls and just put them up on the walls. I mean, that's how much abuse they took. In fact, a lot of the hangers in my house are the ones I ripped out of the store at the end. So again, quality stuff. Made in the USA. They don't have any import stuff. It's all 100% made and manufactured in the USA. Small company. Couldn't tell you how many employees. I was going to throw a guess, 16 employees. So again, 16 hardworking people. Mom and pop, legitimately business. I got nothing but good things to say. If you use any of the links I put down below, I think it goes to Amazon and Sweetwater. They give me like a penny or something. Whatever, they give you a kickback if you buy from them. Don't feel obligated to do that. But that's what I recommend. A lot of people will tell you that you can buy really good ones for $3. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying I can only tell you what I do. I had the same option to buy a $3 hanger, and I always chose these $12, $15 ones, not because of any other reason than literally I trust them. To me, I trust them like I trust a car seat with my kids. I trust these things. So Voodoo Fist says, thanks for doing what you do. Best channel on YouTube. Thank you for lying for me. That's very nice of you. Not the best channel on YouTube, but I'm the best channel name Know Your Gear. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Voodoo Fist. That's a very nice compliment, and I appreciate you saying that, man. That's cool. That's very nice of you. Very kind. Bill says, I just bought a chair called the Sound Seat. Needed a comfy guitar chair stool that my dogs cannot occupy. Don't recall guitar chairs being discussed here. Any experience and thoughts on any of them? I use, so right now I'm sitting on a crappy office chair that squeaks. When I do videos, you can see behind me, I'm using a Fender bar stool. Look, squeak. This is going to be awkward if you can't hear that squeaking. It's really loud. Anyways, that's the Fender bar stool I use. But what I really use in the other room is I use Pork Pie seats. Pork Pie is like a drum throne company, and they make great stuff. And I use a Pork Pie seat. And it's like sitting on a cloud. It's nice. I haven't checked out the Sound Seat. I will check it out. I will put a link when I index this to the Sound Seat website, so you guys can check it out as well. And just really cool. But yeah, that's what I use. That's it. The only thing I will tell you is what I use is 24-inch bar stools. I like 24 inches because my feet touch the floor, and I like them to have, this one has a ring. See the ring right there, the little ring for your foot if you need to put your leg up. To put your guitar on your leg. That's what I like. I don't like the taller 32-inch bar stools. They're too tall for me. It's just not where I want to be. So 24 inches is comfortable. I think it's a perfect seating position for guitar. Fret level midnight. Hey, what's up? Fret level midnight says, finally got a Godin HSS vintage Sunburst in the mail today. Okay, so he talked about he ordered one before from the $600 below video, right? So he's got it in the mail today. Plays pretty good. Fantastic gig bag. Yeah, their gig bags are legit. I think mine just needed a little setup for me. Thoughts? Yeah, of course. Some adjustments is more than adequate for most guitars. You know what I mean? To me, this is a conversation that I have, and I've tried to use different analogies over the years, especially when people are like, they can't figure out sometimes when I'm critiquing a guitar, why did I hammer that and not hammer that? And you got to understand, when what I personally care about with a guitar is different than what I think the average guitar player should care about, because I've spent so much time teaching and learning. Well, I shouldn't say teaching myself and learning to do these kind of repairs. Sometimes people are like, I love it when I did a video and I was talking about a guitar and they were like, and I was complaining about the setup, and they was like, well, you could do setups. Why don't you just do it? I'm like, well, it's because I'm not making videos for me. I'm making videos for you, and you can't do it because the average viewer does not do their own setups. So that's why. So back to this, what I was going to say was, here's my thought. Maybe it helps. Again, I like the analogy, so I'll stick with it. If I bought a car and the alignment is off, that'd be no-go. I'd take it back to the dealership. If I bought a car and the tire was a little low, that's different, right? Tire a little low, I'm not, I would go put air in it at the gas station. I wouldn't go back to the dealership and be like, what up? What's going on? Why is my tire low? I would be like, hey man, I would just go fix it myself. So again, same thing. Adjusting a saddle, adjusting the truss rod, those are easy things that no one should be afraid of, and you should be able to do yourself. Cutting the nut is not something you should have to do if you paid for a brand new guitar. To me, cutting a nut would be like the alignment or other things in the car where you're like, hey man, weren't you supposed to do this? You know what I mean? So that same thing with your guitar. That's what I'm getting at is if all you think is you need some adjustment. And keep in mind, sometimes when we're talking about setups, we're not talking about the guitars being defective or wrong. It's a personal thing, okay? You personally like the action a certain way. Maybe that's not how the factory does it because the average consumer doesn't like it that way. You might like things different. So yeah, very cool. I'm glad you like the guitar. Like I said, I'm a huge Godin fan. I'm actually in the market to buy another Godin and do a video, but slow moving on that. I haven't found the one I want. Grumpy Mike guitar. Is it Grumpy Mike guitar? Do you change this? I always thought it was Grumpy. No, I guess it was Grumpy Mike. I said this before. Actually, now I'm having deja vu the time I said. I thought it was called Grumpy Mike, not Grumpy Mike Guitar. Grumpy Mike says, and why not? Man, that's really cool of you. And says, since you mentioned lefties, which budget lefty would you recommend? Squire Ibanez asking for a friend. My favorite lefty guitar hands down, is Schecter guitars. I think they make the most of them. They are not going to be priced the cheapest for sure, but they have great quality left-handed guitars. Squier, Ibanez, other brands make good left-handed guitars, but I always feel like, I don't know what it is. I always thought either Schecter, somebody high up at Schecter either plays left-handed. There's some kind of weird thing where Schecter gives a crap about lefties more than anyone else. I've never found another electric guitar company that seems to make as many left-handed versions of guitars, not only in the models that they make, but at the color choices. So a lot of cool things there. So that's what I would recommend. And lefties are definitely that thing I said I was going to maybe remind myself to mention used again. Man, a lefty Schecter guitar, you can sometimes find those for a song. You know what I mean? Lefties, all lefties know this. You either pay way too much or way too little for a guitar. There's only two kinds of sales when it comes to left-handed guitars. You're top of the end of the price or a steal. So it's because, there's no lefties buying right that day, or the only 3 that are buying them up. And I kind of said that like mean, right? 3. There's more than 3 left-handed people. I've seen them. All right, Miguel says, what are your thoughts on Wolf guitars? I have never tried Wolf guitars. Wolf guitars and Firefly, which I think might actually be connected as a brand, I'm just guessing, are one of the two. Those are the 2 brands that I left off my list, guitar list, and I have another list coming out soon, and they're off that list too. And it's because, like I said in the list, it's a familiar thing. I've never played them, mostly because they didn't exist when we had the store. I haven't had anybody bring me in any for repair. I've maybe seen one Firefly. I've never even physically seen a Wolf guitar. I know Guitar Max has reviewed them. That's my only interaction with them, is I've seen him talk about them. So I've never tried one. So I can't give you any feedback at all. So that's what sucks. All right, AP says, no, literally his name is AP says, not AP, and then I'm saying he's saying this, or they're saying this. AP says, what does G&L do better than Fender and vice versa? Oh, that's a great question. Better, right? That's tough. What does G&L do better? Well, they offer way more options than Fender. In fact, what G&L would do, first of all, here's the confusion about G&L. G&L guitars, USA made guitars. Let's start with USA ones. We're going to stay with that because G&L Tribute is like a standard G&L guitar. You're buying custom shop Fender. And here's why I say that. If you go, which I have been, to the G&L facility, you will see it's very small select group of people with a lot of hands on. In fact, their shop, their G&L's factory looks like Fender's custom shop for the most part to me. And they probably produce less guitars than Fender's custom shop. Again, I'm speculating, but not far off. I know I can't be that far off. In fact, I'm pretty sure G&L makes less guitars than PRS makes private stocks, and that might be closer being far off, but close again. But my point is that the problem I have with G&L and Fender when you compare them is that G&L offers you so much stuff. Like if you can get a G&L in like, I don't think 6 different neck options, okay? And this is what's confusing. And I told G&L this. I said it's confusing. People go to guitar stores and they see a G&L and it's, $1,600 and you're thinking, okay, what colors it comes in? Well, it comes in every color. It's like 30 colors, 6 different neck profiles, 4 different fretboards materials, 3 different fretboards or fret sizes, 3 different bridges, 6 different pickup options, 2 different sets of tuning keys options. So it's a very customer interchangeable guitar. As far as quality, if we're now talking about quality, I don't know if it's necessarily so much superior quality. I've heard that many times from people, it's superior quality. What I will tell you is this. Fender is definitely, when Fender guitars are right, they are amazing, but a lot of times they're not right because they're mass produced in a high volume. So I understand some people, I have 2 friends that bought 2 high-end Fenders this week, and both are having, ironically, problems with either, but I think both got solved, but little issues. So that's the thing with a G&L. To me, I compare G&L to a custom shop Fender. If you were thinking about buying a custom, well, here's what I can tell you. As a person who has a G&L, actually 2 G&Ls, and a custom shop Fender, I would gladly rebuy a G&L over a custom shop Fender many times over. And I'm even talking about for the same dollar amount. And when I say same dollar amount, I understand G&L's resale value sucks and the Fender's resale value is good, but I'm talking about literally owning the guitar, not reselling it for profit. Owning a guitar, I would rather buy a G&L than a custom shop Fender. That's just my experience. There you go. You think of it this way. Out of all these guitars, if you came in this room, I could guarantee you that 7 out of 10 of you, after you played all these guitars in my room, if you came over here and you plugged in my amps and stuff, the G&L, the Margarita Lime, that is the number one guitar in this room, and of my guitars, period, that my friends say sounds amazing. They constantly go, man, it sounds great. It sounds like a Les Paul, but it plays like a Strat, and it looks like a Tele. It's a very great combination guitar. Okay, I know I have super chats, and I know we're on time, but let me grab some non-super chats, man. There's a lot of people here, 881 of us, and they're... somebody's mentioned... Hold on, somebody was talking about the cheese again. Because the cheese that I referenced, somebody said, I can't believe it was intact. It came in a box with ice packs. So, and it was overnighted from Beverly Hills. I don't know why I say it like that. Maybe because it's Beverly Hills, like the Beverly Hillbillies, right? Rain says, hey Phil, what's your thoughts on the Reverend East Sider? My experience with Reverend is very limited. I have a viewer, and I forget his name right now, and I feel horrible, but he's constantly bringing up that I don't talk about Reverend, and it's honest to goodness, it's because, like I said, there's no dealers for it for me to try it. They don't send out product for review. At least they, when I talked to the owner, he wasn't interested. That's the end of that. So I have to buy one, and they're like $1,200, and I'm not really in the market for one a lot of times. So maybe one day, you know what I mean? I'll buy one. I've asked around. In fact, so like I said, that's the thing. So I haven't tried one, but I checked them out at the NAMM show. They were on the racks, and it didn't look like we should touch them. So I took footage of them and talked about them, but I still haven't played them. That's the only thing. They're made in Korea. I think they're made in the Mir factory. They're not made at World, so you guys know. They're made at the Mir, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. And very good stuff. However, I have played Fret King, and that's Trev Wilkinson's brand, and it's very Reverend-esque. And it's also made at the Mir factory. And it's a little less money, but it's a lot less known brand, of course. And those are fantastic. So I could extrapolate from that the Reverends are great because they're made in the same factory, probably the same way. And if I could pick, I'd probably pick the Reverend over the Fret King by brand recognition or something, or looks, because the Fret King looked cool, but it didn't look as cool as the Reverends. Some of the Reverends, so I like a lot of players. When I look at the Reverends, I think, man, that's a beautiful guitar. It's sick. It's great. So, what else? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. And like I said, question marks first if you want to ask me a question. Hold on. Good old dude says, hey, Phil, could you create a link listing of your favorite Reverb mom and pop sellers? Thanks, stay safe. Yeah, I could probably figure out how to do that and publish that. There's probably a way to do that. I do track them. I don't know if you guys do this or even if you know this on Reverb. On Reverb, you can track sellers. I do. Whenever I have a great experience with a seller, I always put them in my little, thing where it tracks them, and you can actually, on Reverb, you can. It's horrible to tell you guys this because if you don't know about this, it's going to make you guys. It's going to make your life great and horrible at the same time. You can not only track sellers, so when a seller lists something and it tells you, because notifications, there's notifications. You can do products too. Like you can say, hey, if you list this, let me know. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of notifications you can set up in Reverb, and then all kinds of things you can save. And like I said, so list of sellers. I've had a lot of great experiences on Reverb with sellers. To be honest with you, in my personal experience with Reverb and sellers as a whole, especially professional sellers, the mom and pops, the only negative experiences I could say I had, most of the time, it was really a failure of me to ask questions, which is always which is why I try to always answer questions. And I ask questions. I mean, answer them. I ask questions. I ask a lot of questions before I buy on Reverb a lot of times, which I know is sometimes frustrating to the seller, but I'm trying to guarantee a good experience for both of us. You know what I mean? I like to pull that trigger. I'm really horrible at, if I don't like something, I'm really horrible at sending it back. Most of the time, I just eat it. And my wife really does not like that. that's not a quality she really enjoys about me. Right now, I have a couple pairs of Vans shoes that I didn't fit, and I'm supposed to take them back, and I don't think they're ever going back. So I'm just, maybe I'm lazy or I just don't want to do it. So like I said, I try to make those purchases stick because it's really kind of not fun for me to email people and kind of, and not to mention 90% of the time, if I send something back, I always exchange it for something. And then it's tough because I feel like I end up with the weirdest things. Okay. Hold on. I know I got a super chat. Hold on, guys. I'm trying to find some non-ones real quick. Huh. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I have some pinned non-super chats. So here's one that was earlier, and it was from Andre. Andre says, hi. Why don't humbucker plastic covers cover the sides like single coils do? And why don't single coils have adjustable pole pieces or screws like humbuckers? And the answer would be, first of all, the reason most humbuckers or humbuckers as a whole don't have the sides of the bobbins covered, because that's what you're talking about. They have the top and then no cover, no plastic around the sides, is because originally humbuckers had covers. They were the chrome covers or nickel covers that you normally see, and people started pulling them off, and that's why the pickups were zebra colored, because the manufacturers made them cream and black for the most part, especially Gibsons and stuff. So essentially, if you look at a humbucker and it looks like, man, that looks like a very unfinished looking product, it's because it is. It was meant to be hidden under the chrome cover, is the main reasoning. Now, the second question is, why don't they have adjustable pole pieces on single coils? It's because most single coils are going to be Alnico 2 or Alnico 5, and the actual slugs, the little pieces of steel, the metal that you see, the steel slugs that you see, that's the magnet. Where a lot of times when you see the Allen hex screws or the flathead screws on a guitar pickup, they are touching a magnet underneath. They are a metal screw touching a magnet. So they are not the magnet themselves, and that's why they can be adjustable. There is adjustable single coil pickups with those, but the magnet would be underneath, and there you go. And somebody out there, that loves pickups like me is going to be like, well, technically, there's all the, again, I'm just keeping it down to the 5-second answer. So that's the answer to your question, why they're like that. They're easy, but a good question because I understand. Overdrive Guitar Channel says, new guitar YouTuber advice. In other words, starting a channel. Yeah, easy. So Overdrive Channel, and again, you have to understand that like a lot of channels, there are a few channels that I've talked to. I think Guitar Samurai is one, Steve at Guitar Samurai, Tyler from Music Is Win. These channels, these were guys who were smart enough to go, hey, I'm going to create a YouTube channel, and this is how I'm going to build it and build a platform. So I want to just preface by saying, I'm just some guy who literally took my cell phone and started making videos. Literally had no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just been learning it on a curve ever since. So take that advice for what it's worth first. So what I want to tell you is this. What I can tell you, I'll attribute my successes to. If you're a new guitar channel, here's what I would tell you to do. Focus 100% on the content. Now, some of this information I'm going to give you, Overdrive Guitar Channel, is not only the things that I did right, but these are the things I did wrong, and I probably won't kind of go into each one, which one was which, but at least it'll be the things that I learned from the positive and negatives. Focus on your content 100%. Make the content worth it. Here's why. Because you'll never be able to predict ever, no one, when the video goes viral. What video gets the 1,000 views versus 200 views, the 10,000 views versus 1,000 views. You won't be able to figure that out. You can try. Maybe there's some magic ball out there. Maybe somebody's smarter than me, of course. But I'm telling you, you have inklings, you have thoughts, but here's why I can tell you. For every video that I was like, I know this is going to be huge, and it was, there was a video that I was like, I know this is going to be huge, and it wasn't. So I don't know if I'm betting a 50-50 average, probably maybe better than that, but not much. So work on the content, because you never know which one's going to be the one that hits and resonates with the audience. And here's why this is important. The one that hits and resonates with the audience, they're going to expect you to do that one over and over again. So if you want to do like, hey, here's, if you want to do a comparison video and it was really hard and you really didn't enjoy it, but you put it out anyways, and that's the one they like, well, you're like, well, okay, now I'll do the regular videos. They're not going to like that, and they're not going to watch it. They're going to watch only what they like. No matter how cool or how fun or how much they like your personality, if you do not talk about the thing they give a crap about, they're not dialing in. So there is a little bit of that. So focus on what you like, because what I will tell you is very few channels that in the guitar community will ever see enough money or revenue or success that it's worth either A, selling your soul, or B, selling out your the joy that you get from this. If you're not getting joy from this, you're screwed, because the best part of this gig is you get to have fun and make a little scratch and have, do well a little bit, some gear and stuff. So that's the advice starting out. Focus on that stuff. And that's easy to do. That's, it's easy to think. Don't focus on like, okay, I got a 4K camera. Like I said, focus on the content, how you deliver stuff. Something I'm still working on constantly, you know what I mean? My biggest problem constantly is I talk really fast. It's just how I talk. It's my cadence. I've tried different things in videos. I've even used a metronome to slow my cadence, and it works. The problem is sometimes when I'm refilming, it gets hard to remember that stuff, and I talk even faster after I've already talked about it. If I do 4 takes and you guys see me talking really fast, it's because not only do I talk fast, it's the 4th, 5th, or 10th take of that, and I'm so bored with it that I'm just trying to get it out as fast as I can. So again, work on that stuff. And the other thing is, it's free to upload, so make content, right? If you have content, make it. That was another mistake I made. I worried about I worried about making great content all the time. And like I said, you try to make the best content you can, but also don't be afraid to make content, because, why not? The more you do, the best. And the last thing is, last piece of advice, and then I'll go on, is don't be afraid to make any video. There are videos, of course, that I made. Now I have a luxury, which I have patrons, so I can send them to patrons if it's a little like, I don't know if the internet's ready for this, or I don't know if it's conveying the thing I thought. And maybe the patrons say, yes, they gave it a pass, or they give it a fail, and maybe it gets out to the public, or maybe it doesn't. But the point is, there's that. But what I can tell you is there's videos that I've learned to make them, and then give them to your friends, and let your friends say, hey, yeah, that's great, you should do it, or not. The other thing is, don't trust the ones that go, yeah, look great, and they didn't give you any insight because they probably didn't watch it. And then next thing you know, everybody's like, hey, I can't believe you did that. Let's see. Andy did this. Says, hey, Phil, started looking into wireless guitar systems. Do you have any favorites? I don't use wireless at all, and the only one that I seem to even find interesting was the Line 6 one that had the recall. Now, my understanding is the recall has been fixed, and I haven't heard anything yet. So, I guess you could recommend that, but I'm only recommending because a couple people I know play them and use them, but I don't use a wireless at all. I don't know why. You know what? I've just never been a wireless person. Just never did it. It's not a cork sniffer like sound. Oh, it's not the sound of a cable. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, it is. I'm not interested to do any more steps than possible. So to me, it's already like plug this in. That's 2 steps. The wireless unit is like plug this in, turn this on. That's just too many steps. Double the steps means it's just not fun for me. So that's my only logic. But I used to own a wireless. To give you an idea how old the last time I owned a wireless was, and I think it's the only wireless I've ever owned in my life, was a Telex unit, and it was probably 95. So I had a Telex unit in 95. I don't even know if Telex is still around. I remember when I bought it in the music store, the guy, I'm like, I wanted an 80 because every rock star had an 80 at the time, which I think are now the garbage ones, right? Again, I don't know. I feel bad if it's not. But and he walked in and he's like, we have Telex. I'm like, I never heard it. He goes, the NFL uses Telex. I'm like, oh, the NFL. And then I bought it. And then it was later when I got home and I realized, what do I care about what the NFL uses? But it worked. It worked fine. Let's see. Beware. Beware. I'm going to say beware. Where. Beware says, because it's B, the letter B, and then where. Says building ES335 kit. Wiring is PETA. Okay. So if finish goes well, we'll upgrade for build. Mojo kit. Okay, Stu Mac, ES35 specific, pickups, splittable with pushable bridge. I'm messing this all up. Newbie, please help. Yeah, okay. So he's building an ES335 kit. So if the finish goes well, he'll upgrade for the build. The Mojo kit, ? Stu Mac, no ES335 specific kit pickups. I really don't understand the question. I am super confused as where the actual question in this is. Are you telling me that you're debating on the two kits? He says you're saying you're building it, so I don't know if you have it or if you're debating between the two manufacturers of Stu Mac versus Mojo kit. I have no experience with the ES335 kit. I've never tried it. All kits, you know what it is? I really, like I've said before, I'm not really huge into the kits, especially the lower price ones, because I don't like to frustrate myself, and sometimes some of those kits you end up fixing more problems than you end up putting together. But that being said, I'm not sure what the actual question is. Are you asking me what wiring should you use? So we're gonna pin this one. I'm gonna pin this one. Maybe I can come back to it next week. Enrico says, "Do you think Mojo, okay, or Finding the One?" So he's not talking about Mojo tone. He's talking about Mojo like it has Mojo. Or Finding the One is an excuse for Gibson to slack on QC. Okay, that's an interesting take on this. Hold on, we're gonna see where this goes. No other company requires a search for the one. So what he's saying is basically, yes, when people say, they have a great Les Paul, they're like, it's always the one or the one of the bunch. You know what I mean? They found this magical one that sounds better. What's funny about that is, here's where I will come at you with on this when it comes to Gibson and quality assurance. When I find that people are talking about two different things. So when people talk about Gibsons and quality assurance issues, like I found one that's good quality assurance. In other words, our good quality one, where it doesn't have blemishes or defects or flaws. That to me is I understand that they're looking for a good guitar, but when players generally are talking about the Mojo or the one Les Paul, the sound, it's actually it's not quality assurance issues. So let me give you an example of my Les Pauls. I really like the one that sounds, the one behind me, the stripe one. It sounds really good. It's heavy. And, but I couldn't say like, oh man, the binding on that is extra, put together nice, and the finish doesn't have any orange peel in it and it looks good. It's literally just, it's just everything came together and it sounds pretty good, or I prefer it. And think about how silly this is. When we say we love a guitar, we're really saying silly things like maybe it has more mid-range or less mid-range or more treble or more bass than you're normally like on a guitar like that. So to me, I understand where you're going with this question, but to me, there's two different arguments. Finding a guitar that's the one or has Mojo is really about connecting with it. It'll always be more of a you than it is the guitar, right? There's no quantifiable, like, let me give you an example. If I said, oh, this guitar I have has the Mojo, or the one, it's the one that has the tone, I could give it to at least 20 of you guys, and we would probably at least get 10 different answers about whether or not it had the Mojo or not. So that's where it's different. So I don't think it's a QC thing. Now, when people are sometimes complaining about Gibson, they're complaining about QC. One of the things about Gibson, though, that gets hammered a little bit is, first of all, I always ask, when did Gibson have great QC? You know what I mean? Quality assurance. We'll say quality assurance. So in other words, what I mean by is when people talk about Gibson has horrible quality assurance, do we know if it always had horrible quality assurance? Was there a time? Like I don't hear older players saying, back in the 63, every Gibson came out of the factory perfect. They always have the same stories too. Oh, they've always been crappy. And what I think that always kind of goes to is they're expensive, and for the price, you kind of feel like you should get a better standard than you're getting, is the logic. I understand that feeling, but that's why I buy Gibsons used when I can, right? That helps too. Because I find that my love of a Gibson guitar is somehow connected to the price I paid for it. So, for instance, if I was to pay $3,000 for a Gibson Les Paul, maybe I'd be like, man, look at this. I couldn't even get this part right. Where if I bought it at the right price, I'd be like, man, it's got the sound. So I think there's a little bit of that in there. I could be wrong. I'm always interested to hear you guys' thoughts on certain things like this, because it's not a quantifiable thing. It's just a feeling. Is that L-I-L-I-X? L-I-L... Little Pig. I think it's Little Pig, but it looks like Licks Pig. Lixpig. Some of you guys in your sign-ons. Lixpig. That doesn't say from. Lixpig says, I have a Strat that has really bad buzzing on the low E string. Yeah, that's sometimes where Strats get it the worst. But only if up-picked. Oh, yeah, that's another issue with guitars in general, not just Strats. I've been through everything. Any ideas? I've had this horrible experience with customers and their guitars where when they strum up, certain strings will resonate and buzz or have issues. This is something that I have to admit that I've only been able to fix sometimes. And there's just no way around it. And what I mean by that is, because it's not necessarily that it has a high frets or the action is too low. It just has to do with the fact that when you hit the string at that, it's weird. It shouldn't matter. It's one of those things that I bet you if we really diagnose it shouldn't matter. If I hit the string going down or up, it shouldn't really matter. It's spinning, but sometimes the direction it's spinning makes a huge difference. And low E is definitely one, and G strings are definitely one on Strats that I've seen many times. What ends up always happening with this, again, I'm not looking at your guitar. There could be 1,000 little things that we could be adjusting. Maybe I'd find the fret. If you showed it to me, and I was looking at it, maybe I could find the fret that's causing the problem. Maybe it's the way it's sitting in the nut. There's a lot of things that you have to diagnose through that. I've said this, I could tell you this. One of the things I would do is I would raise the saddle on it to get the action a little high to see if it stopped, and then try to see when I'm lowering the action, when it comes back, what it could be possibly hitting. Because like I've said before, generally speaking, when you hear any kind of buzz, it's the string hitting something. It's usually hitting something, and most of the time it's going to be a fret because there's not many things that it can hit. The other thing you can do is adjust the pickup height on a Strat. They're kind of notorious for that. There's a couple little things to do. So I would say, to help you with this problem, if I was going to say diagnose it yourself, first, check the pickup heights, make sure that they're set correctly. That's easy to do. On a Strat like that, you're going to be pretty much right up on the string if it's too high. You know what I mean? You got to get really right up on the string with the Strat pickups. Most Strats, are going to come stock with the pickups slanted so that the treble side of the pickup's higher than the bass side. That's how Fender does it. And a lot of people, especially by used Strats, think that that's some kind of a mistake, and maybe the guy that had the guitar before them just didn't know what they were doing, and they fix them immediately, make them flush. But Fender, I'll tell you, out of the box, a Fender Strat majority comes with the pickups tilted. So like I said, the treble side's higher. So make sure that's adjusted. Do that first. Then, like I said, raise the saddle. See if that helps make the problem go away. Because again, when you're diagnosing a sound issue, don't worry about playability. Try to find the sound issue, diagnose that, find it, then try to figure out how to make it sound. So in other words, once you get it to sound right, then try to figure out how to get it to play right, still sounding like that. And when you follow that logic, you'll generally find the issue. My guess, if it's the issue, it could be the pickup. Not likely. A lot of people will tell you it won't affect it or not. My experience is very rarely does it affect it, but it is possible. I would say it's either going to be the way the nut's cut, because it could have an issue with the nut for sure, or it could be even the neck alignment. Sometimes that's a factor too. So check that as well. And that's not, when I'm saying neck alignment, I mean side to side, from the treble to the bass side. Make sure the strings are aligned correctly. Doug says, Marketplace Facebook has been okay for lower end gear. Yeah, you know what? A lot of my friends use the Facebook Marketplace. My wife uses it for some stuff too. I've never used it. Heard good things. That's why I don't recommend it. It's not that I don't. It's not good. I personally never use it, so I can't really say. But so you're not the first person by any means to tell me they've had great luck there. In fact, really great luck. So that's another place to check things out. Actually, I think consistently here it's much better than Facebook. I just haven't tried it. I don't even think I've ever seen it. I gotta go on Facebook and look. I try to stay away from Facebook. It's funny how people villainize Facebook, and again, I'm not not being political in any way. I want to make sure you know where I'm going with this. People always talk about how horrible Facebook is. My problem with Facebook for me is half my friends drive me nuts. I think, it's like I made this joke once. I don't know if it was to you guys or just to private friends, but I said, I've known friends 20 years and then found out they're crazy because I saw their Facebook profile and I went, I never knew he was crazy. Look at him. He's crazy. So what I mean by that is it seems like a great way to ruin my day is to go on Facebook. Just go on there. Somebody posts something that I didn't know about or want to know about. And then I go, oh man. And then you're in your head going, why did they post that? And again, I'm not talking about offensive things or even political things. People just post the weirdest things on Facebook. So I just try to stay the heck away from it. In fact, I can tell you if I'm not going on Facebook to post something for the channel, I'm usually not on Facebook very much, but I need to check it out because again, it's really cool. Now on a positive note, one that I will tell you what Facebook's great for is chatting with people. It's a great way to communicate with people through the messenger system. In fact, most of my business connections are through the messenger, so I have to do that. But I do that through an app on my phone, but I know it's connected somehow to Facebook. Frederick says 250K pots or 500K pots for a single coil sized humbucker. Both. You can use either or, no problem. Most of the time, if I was going to tell you the manufacturers, here's the deal. Here's the rule I use. And again, I'll stick to the rule. I go with the majority rules philosophy, which is if you have two single coils of humbucker, use 250Ks, right? If you have two humbuckers in a single coil, go 500Ks. In other words, so whatever the majority, so go 500K for humbuckers, 250K for single coils. And if you have more single coils than humbuckers, stick to the 250K. More humbuckers and single coils, go 500K. There is an exception to that rule, and you can add I think it's a resistor, right? It's like a 500K resistor. You can add a 500K resistor and put it in the switch and use 500K pots and then put your humbucker to that and then use a 500K resistor and wire that into your single coils, and that'll take it down to 250K. There's a lot of wiring schematics like that that'll do stuff like that. Here's the thing with that. I usually, to be honest with you, a lot of those wiring things that I've done, I do it for the channel so you guys could see it. But deep down, I'm just like, me personally, I'm like, yeah, maybe it makes a difference. It's here. It's cool. It's a good conversation to talk about. And it's always nice to learn this stuff. But realistically, I can tell you this. If I have a strat with a mini humbucker and two single coils, I'm just leaving stock Fender 250K pots in there or whatever pots are in there as long as they're good. I don't go to 500K. And also, if you want to be super crazy, it has to be a Strat though because it's a short shaft, but Fender actually makes a stackable 250K, 500K potentiometer where you can actually assign each pickup. The humbucker would go to 500K potentiometer volume pot, and the single coils would go to 250K potentiometer, and if you want to be like that. And Fender wires that up. I think the American Professionals are now wired like that. With that. There you go. Ta-da! All right. Let's see. We got... okay, cool. Enrico says, how do you think Gibson will adapt once boomers are gone? This is great. This is a great comment because there was a comment on a video of the day and I really thought it was interesting and it kind of reminds me of this. It says, they rely heavily on 50 and 60s nostalgia and have it adapted to the millennial Gen Z. Hey, what about Gen Xers? No, just kidding. I think I'm Gen X, right? I think that's how it works. I'm pretty sure I'm a Generation X, as well as FMIC. What's FMIC? Oh, it's Fender. So in other words, yes. No, and so they're not Gibson. Let's not. So it's not a pick on Gibson episode. PRS, I think, is just as guilty as not being connected to any youth at all. When I think, look, I like PRS and I like Gibson, but yeah, when I think of PRS and Gibson, it's very like, yeah. I mean, here's how I know. I'm old and I feel young when I look at that stuff, right? Like I feel like I'm the younger end of that spectrum of players that are into those guitars. The interesting comment that I want to connect to this was when I did the video the other day. I did the video called 10 issues with a US made guitars, which by the way, next week will be 10 issues with import guitars. Fair enough, right? Again, just my opinions, worth whatever they're worth. Hey, they're worth nothing because you watch the videos for free. So anyways, somebody said in the video, what are boomer companies going to do when the boomers die? And I'm sure, it was meant to be a little bit more trolly, or maybe it wasn't, but I love the comment. Here's why. Not because it was a troll comment, because again, that's kind of the point of that video. Who are you appealing to, and are you grabbing new market? And yes, Gibson does. Look, they all do. They all rely on the nostalgia. Let me put it to you in a very, very plain way. And again, like Paul Reed Smith. This is the 35th anniversary of Paul Reed Smith. And here's an observation of Paul Reed Smith guitars as a fan of Paul Reed Smith guitars. And when I say fan, I bought my PRS guitars. I love them, right? I buy them. So that tells you everything, right? I mean, any YouTuber can go, I love it. They gave me one. We all been there on these channels. You got a free guitar and you can go, yeah, the company's great. But, money talks and BS walks. My money bought PRS guitars. When I buy guitars, that's one of the guitars I buy. So what I'm saying is this: 35 years in the industry, one of the things I've always liked about Paul Reed Smith guitars is I felt like Ibanez and other brands, he was innovator, right? He was like, I'm going to use graphite on the nut. Right now, some of you guys are like, no, he's always been copies and crap. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is how I felt. I feel like PRS was an innovative company who basically made a guitar to appeal like a guy like me, someone who's really a fan of a Strat, but also a fan of a Les Paul. And he's like, hey, I'm going to make something in between. And I'm like, hey, that's great. It's a Reese's peanut butter cup, right? It's peanut butter and chocolate in the same one. Now you look at the company, 35th anniversary, and if you look at something I found as an interesting observation about the company, 35 years of innovating, and on his anniversary, if you look, in my opinion, his most popular guitar is the John Mayer, which is a Strat with a lacquer body and a bone nut. And his second most popular guitar is the SE245, which is a Gibson-style guitar with lacquer, a bone nut, and plastic binding. Essentially, I don't know what that means, but it feels like after 35 years of designing and building guitars, all he may have learned is that Gibson and Fender had it right 60 years ago. So the reason I tell you that story is not to slam him, because again, I like those guitars and him. It's to really analyze this, what we're all talking about, which is the nostalgia is making people money. They're going to focus on it. So there's two arguments to be had here. One, nostalgia is selling things, so why innovate? Two, when that doesn't work on the millennials and the Gen Zs, what are you going to do? Well, there's another idea, which is you can wait until that happens. Let's be very clear. The majority of buyers, look, when companies reach out to me, smart companies, not all companies, but when smart companies reach out to me, and probably other channels, the smart ones know to ask for my analytics, okay? Most companies reach out and go, hey, Phil, would you talk about our guitar? And you're like, yeah, of course, I'm a guitar whore, right? Sorry to say that. Guitar, I don't know what the guitar word person. I'm a guitar person, and I like guitars, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, of course. But smart companies, the first thing they'll say is they want to know what my analytics are. Analytics being my Google Analytics, saying what's the average age of the viewer that's watching. Why? Because we know, as any retail industry, as any industry knows, buyers are between a certain age, right? Kids buy gear, but let me put it this way. Who buys $3,000 guitars? People between 35 and 55. That's who buys the majority of the guitars. Now, so I don't get a crap later in the comments, because I'm going to get it anyways from a guy who's 65 and he's like, I'm still buying $3,000 guitars. But you're not normal. Generally speaking, people buy in the guitar market. This is known information for years and years and years. The majority of the buyers in certain price points are these buyers. What happens is, as people get older and they start thinking about retirement, they start thinking maybe $3,000 guitar is not the best investment of their time and money. And sometimes they just go ahead and start going to less expensive guitars. It's true. Sometimes I think it's because, in my experience selling guitars to people, some people burn out. You can only buy so many guitars for a while before you get like, okay, I've experienced all the $3,000 guitars. And so so we're all on the same page. Insert whatever price point you think pertains to you. So you can buy all the $300 guitars, $1,000 guitars, $1,500 guitars, $10,000 guitars. I don't care what the number is. There's a number that connects to you, and then after so much time, you kind of burn out on that number, and then you start buying either more expensive because you think there's something better out there, or less expensive because you felt that you can get more with less. So my point is, I think the industry will adapt to that, is what it does. But like I said, I guess my whole long tirade is, I don't think Gibson is isolated in this problem. I think there's a lot of companies. When I think of a modern U.S. company right now in the U.S., now think about this. Outside the U.S., I can think 10 companies that I think appeal to Gen Z or millennials, if that matters, okay? And here's how it is. We know Strandberg's on top of it. I think Ormsby, although small, is on top of it. Mayonnaise, right? I think some of the European companies really seem to be and I don't mean the metal guys, right? It's not about being metal. It's not about, but youth is about rebellion, and rebellion is about crazy, and you know what I mean? And so that's what I'm saying. When I think of a U.S. company nailing it right now, it's Kiesel. Kiesel, I think, is grabbing the younger market for the most part as a U.S. builder. Maybe Music Man next. And this is my opinion. And I'm an older guy, so I might be totally out of touch. Right? Sadly enough, if you're an older guy like me, you're probably just like me. So you should probably, like me, not say anything. We should listen to a younger guy. Maybe I'll ask Agafish what he likes. Actually, look at Agafish's channel. It's a perfect example of what he likes. And he's in that age demographic. So yeah, so like I said, now does that mean I think all American companies should switch to that? No, I don't think so. I think there's, I think like Gibson has learned when they tried to innovate their guitars and failed, although those innovations were kind of really weird. I think sometimes you should also be content and happy. Here's what I mean by that. Some companies get to live on their heritage forever, like maybe Harley Davidson and Gibson and Fender. So that's really cool. And they don't have to worry about innovating everything and coming up with something new every year and every 10 years. Maybe they just get to be who they are forever. I don't know. I'm really curious. I think we're all curious. We're all curious to see in 10 to 20 years if the next generation really does grab onto Gibsons and Strats and Fenders. I'm curious. I don't know. My guess is not so much. That's my guess. Does that mean they go away? No, but yeah. Bill says Agafish is a Harley Benton guy. Well, Agafish is a young guy, right? I mean, he looks like he's 16. No offense, Agafish. He looks like he's 16. I think he's 28. Who knows? He's probably 22. I don't know. I never asked him. But here's what I do know. Harley Bentons are affordable guitars. Think about this. Harley Bentons are what people can afford. Right? Harley Benton makes a great guitar that everybody can, not everybody, but most players can afford, which is what's great about it. So of course, younger players are going to be really drawn to that too. Plus, a lot of it is they don't have the programming we have. Look, older players were programmed. We were programmed. I was programmed by Slash. Slash is cool, i.e. buying a Slash type guitar is cool. Eddie Van Halen is cool, right? It's not like that. So, some people are like, I'm not like that. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but there's a majority that's a little programming. Sometimes I wonder if I have all these guitars because CC DeVille had videos where he had all these guitars. And I don't even consider myself a Poison fan. I just wonder where it came from. Was it Billy Gibbons? Somewhere in this travel of mine, I decided having cool guitars is cool to me. So Wingdoll 56 says, no apologies. I ride Harleys and play Fenders. Oh, absolutely. Ellen says, let's go with it. Ellen says millennials are notoriously cheap. Well, the generations are different. I mean, let's be honest. Hippies were a different group of people for sure, right? Than the generation before them. So everybody's going to be different. Greg says, hey, look, we're going to go with this. Greg says millennials are cheap because they don't have money. That's not entirely true, Greg. There's something interesting about millennials. And I say that because my son's a millennial. And when watching him, I have learned that it's interesting. It doesn't matter if he's broke or not. He's definitely a minimalist when it comes to what he wants and what he does with his money. And so when I see a lot of millennials, I see them that way. They just not into buying as much stuff, which is bad for our industry. Let's just be honest, man. So, but I think it all will work out. I don't know how, but it will. John West, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're going to have to hurry. John West says, is refretting a cheaper guitar to have stainless steel frets worth the hassle? I have an ARZ 200 FM, and I'm trying to make it the best guitar I've ever had. Well, you're saying is refretting it to cheaper guitar. You want to say to you. In other words, you're going to do the work. Having it done is tough because by the time most places are going to be pretty expensive for a stainless steel refret. Here's what I will tell you. I've said this before. If you love the guitar, then yeah, refret the guitar with stainless steel frets. It'll be just that guitar and it'll be better because it'll have frets that won't wear out. If you think doing that will make you like the guitar because you don't like the guitar now, I would not recommend that. Don't do things to your guitar to make you like it, because that's not usually what my experience has taught me when I see, especially customers doing mods and doing stuff for them. It seems like they're like, oh, if they add these pickups and they do all this stuff, then they'll like the guitar. It always ends up badly for them. Usually you want to like the guitar already and then just make the guitar better because you improve it. So that's what I would say. Stainless steel frets, although keep in mind stainless steel frets, and again, this is a hard argument. People are always like, oh, they're expensive because of this, or it's overrated because of that. The reality is this: like I said, everybody knows it wears your files a little harder, and it can wear on your tools a little harder. At most of the level that most of us are going to be refretting guitars, those factors don't apply. Okay, when you're talking about 1,000 guitars with stainless steel frets are going to wear through tooling faster, and that tooling can add up to some costs. But no, refretting a guitar with stainless steel makes totally sense, especially if you're doing the work yourself. Stainless steel frets are cheap. I buy mine from Stu Mac, and they're dirt cheap. For comparatively, they're not much more. I don't know what I paid for I just bought some more stainless steel fret wire from Stu Mac, and I usually buy about 3 2-foot pieces. Is more than enough than what I need. Let's see. Greg says, looking to buy my first electric since my Ibanez TM71 in 2005. Your thoughts on the Yamaha RevStar series, specifically looking at the 502T. I have not tried the RevStar. That is one of the guitars that is in my kind of like, I want to do a video on it. I made a promise to myself that within the next couple months, I will review a Yamaha guitar. I don't know which one, because I'm going to have to acquire it myself. You know what I mean? And get it. But I don't know if the RevStar will be the one. But like I said, I'm a fan of the Yamaha. And so many of you guys are reaching out saying you bought Yamahas and you're loving them. And I've always liked the brand, and the ones I played have been great. So, yeah, I think that's... So let's get to the core of this. Is it an upgrade? It's an upgrade from what you have. You would be getting, in my opinion, a better guitar, and I think you'd be happy with at least it, and give it a try. JBN12 says, how difficult is it to change robo tuners on a Gibson Les Paul to regular locking tuners? It's not hard at all. Robo tuners are very easy to pull off those guitars. There's only a couple things you have to worry about. So one, if your RoboTuner module has been on your guitar for a long time, now you're saying RoboTuners, I think you're talking about the G-Force system. If you're talking about the first year run of RoboTuners, that's a little slightly different, not much, but slightly different. But the G-Force system works really great. You just unscrew all 6 nuts, and then the 6 tuners will pop out. The module will pop off. The only downside is if it's been on there for a long time, you'll have a square of discolored finish where the module was, but no big deal. Grover tuners, hip shot tuners, any 10mm shaft tuners will fit in there fine. However, there is no holes drilled, so you will need to drill holes, which is very easy because there's never been tuners in the guitar before. So here's what I would recommend. If you have a Gibson guitar with the G-Force Robo Tuning system, it's super easy. What you do is I have tons of videos showing you on my channel, plus Stu Mac has them and stuff. Everybody has them where, showing you how to install tuning keys. Just buy yourself some quality tuning keys, because whatever ones you buy, you're going to have to drill the first holes, and you want to make sure those are the only ones that ever go in the guitar. So it'll be great. In my experience, Grovers work great because that's what Gibson uses. I'm not a huge Grover tuner fan. I'm not against them, just not a huge fan of them, but Gibson uses them, so it looks right. I'll tell you, that's part of a thing, is if you put those on there, Grover locking keys, most people will never know that the Gibson came with anything else. If you use hip shots or ratios or some of the other tuners I like, Godos, everybody will know those are aftermarket tuners. If that matters to you, it matters. If it doesn't, then I'm just giving you your options. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. This is going to be the longest episode. The episodes just getting longer and longer. Last week's episode was so long, I cut it into 2 podcasts with 2 different endings and 2 different intros. Some of you guys caught that. So I just thought it was easier to digest. Eddie says, you need a reason to drink. we can give you a reason to drink. Sadly, I cannot order some cheese and beer for you via these super Phil messages. Yeah, thank you. I don't need a reason to drink. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Pete says, the more you know, the less likely you are to learn something new. A wise man appreciates that when it happens. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think they're right. Everything has a law of diminishing returns, right? How many things you can keep adding to your knowledge base. But luckily, I found I'm just every day is like a new day of learning stuff. It's strange. It's strange how much you can learn about guitars and still know nothing. It's so weird. I always feel like I'm gonna get to a point where I'm a little bit like feel more happy with the knowledge base. Never gets there. BK, hey BK just did a super chat for no reason. Thank you again, BK. By the way, I hope you did too. I loved Dovey Doss's video. If you guys, I'll put a link in it right now on the link when I do the index. Dovey Doss, as you guys said, I did I did a Sharpen My Axe of a guitar that BK sent me to send to Dovey Doss. And Dovey Doss did the video this week, and guitar is great. I didn't know what that song was, but I loved it. I love watching it. I watched it 2 or 3 times. It was great. Jeff says, hey, Phil, my super chat last week, beer night with Phil. What? Okay. Let's see. It says, you know your beers and gear next week. Oh, yeah. And yes, on the deck with the beer and steak on the grill. Yeah. So basically what Jeff's talking about was I was talking about doing the end of the month one with some beers, and somebody was like a happy hour. That's going to happen. I'll make sure I have that all worked out this week. And Jose, what's up, Jose? Jose Benito Martinez Jr. says, where's Ralph? We miss him. Ralph's on lockdown. It's COVID. I haven't seen Ralph physically in 2 months, I think. I seen him once. So you know, I seen him once or twice, maybe twice, after the lockdown. Which was at least a month after. When I say there was a lockdown, then like a couple months went by, and then I saw him once or twice, and then we went on lockdown again. He lives on the other side of town, and he had a loved one get exposed to COVID, and he luckily did not get COVID, but obviously he was on quarantine because he was exposed to someone who had it, was confirmed having it. So that's good. I think I'm going to see him tomorrow. I think. Again, it's different times. But yeah, I would love him to do a show. So I might get him to do a pre-recorded show tomorrow. So you can guys have that. I just don't know if we can do live shows. I just don't know. Jay says, hey, Phil, what are your thoughts on vintage braided wire as opposed to modern 4-way humbuckers? Is there any significant difference? Well, yeah, of course, the 4-way, you're talking about the 4-way wire for humbuckers where you can coil split the pickups. I'm not a huge coil split guy. It's like one of those things, like I'm like, it's one of those options, it's fine to have it. I like having it, but I never use it. I find constantly I'm never in love with the sound. It's always to me a thinner, weirder sound than a single coil, and it doesn't have all the magic a single coil has. There's just something about it I don't love. And sometimes, and so it's not all things are created equal. Some single coil or coil splits are better than others. Some companies do it better. Some pickups do it better. But I'm not huge on that. So I will tell you this. I usually, when I buy pickups, I don't buy pickups that have a 4 wires to do a coil split. I usually buy the vintage braided wire. Now, I hate the braided wire because it's a pain in the ass to do on certain wiring jobs. Some wiring jobs, so when you talk about braided wire, there's a metal braiding, and then that's your ground, and then you have cloth, and then in the cloth is the hot, the wire that's sending the signal. And one of the things nice about them is you can solder the braiding to the potentiometer, and then just hook the other wire to the lug or wherever you're going to wire it. That's great. But sometimes when you're doing more intricate stuff, that stuff gets a little tricky to get that braiding to be a wire you need to ground out. Lincoln says, are the new Epiphone Les Pauls worth it? Seems quality has gone way up. I've been eyeing a Les Paul with P90s. Thoughts? Yeah, I haven't tried them, but I did talk to Eljon today. When I say talked, Eljon was very kind. He sent me a nice email saying he saw the live show and he saw us talking about him, and he just wanted to say, hey, he's a fan of the channel, and I've always, I made a comment that Eljon is someone I respect and like, and he works at Gibson doing Epiphones. Some of you guys that are on the live shows, watch live shows on channels, see Eljon's out there in the community. He's one of the guys out there who works with artists and YouTube channels, and he's actually engaged in trying to figure out and be part of these communities. And he definitely deserves the respect for that, because like I said, some companies, again, I'm not trying to slam companies, but some companies, they're artist people that deal with YouTube channels. They just see it as marketing commercials. They see you as an audience. They see me as someone who can present a product for sale to the audience. And look, I know it's part of the business. Most of us are watching YouTube for free. Some of us are paying for YouTube, but most of us are watching for free. And if you watch free stuff, you're getting commercials. Just how it works. That's how this works. That being said, some of us channels want to make entertainment. Commercials are part of the gig. Marketing to you is part of the gig. It is, it just is. It's part of survival. But every day when I make content, I don't think, oh man, I hope this sells X amount of units, right? That's for the companies to worry about. My job, I hope, when I'm making a video, and I'd say job loosely, is to have fun and hopefully give you guys some entertainment and some fun, right? We're talking about guitars. And what I want to say is Eljon gets that. He gets that that's first. That's the most important. And I appreciate that about him. So that being said, I told him that I would be totally open to review some Epiphones and some Kramers. I thought you guys would enjoy that. He said he'll get back to me. So I would love to put my hands on at least 3 Epiphones and maybe 1 or 2 Kramers and do videos and talk about them. I think it's a product that I think you guys are interested in. I'm definitely interested in. And Lincoln, and maybe if Eljon sees this, he'll see you're talking about it too, and maybe that'll motivate them to want to do it. And I lost my feed. That's funny. Let me go back. That's weird. It kicked me out of the super. Oh, there you are. All the supers got kicked. Here we are. As we hit the 2-hour mark. Okay, we're going to be buttoning this up. So if you do a super chat, as of right now, I'm not answering it because unfortunately I can't get that far behind. Okay, next one is from Fret Level Midnight again, says, a la Robot Master Switch, Philip McKnight, have you ever heard of Chandler guitars? Oh, yeah, old school. They used to be based in San Francisco in the 70s, 80s. Oh, yeah, of course. Well, what I remember most about Chandler guitars was, you open Guitar World and they always had that ad that was vertical in the corner. You know what I mean? It wasn't the big ad, and it was like Chandler guitars. And for me, it was confusing because it was like Charvel, and it was Chandler. So, yeah, there was Chandler guitars. I don't know much about them. That'd be a really interesting video. And I don't know if I've actually ever seen one in person. I maybe seen one on Reverb and eBay, but never seen one in person. But I always confused them for a long time with Charvel guitars, and then you realize like I always thought, like, for a long time, I'm talking about, decades ago, I always thought like Jackson, Charvel, Chandler. Right? Because there's Charvet, and then there was Charvet, which is a subline of Charvel. So it was like Jackson, Charvel, Charvet, Chandler, and I thought they were connected. And I thought for a while, did Chandler do bodies, like Boogie Bodies and all those guys too? Did they do bodies and necks as well, or just guitars? See, I don't even remember. So that's what I remember about them, was that. So if you guys are interested, some of you newer players interested in checking out something weird, check out Chandler guitars. And older players, just there we are. We reminisced, as you will. Hey, Tony. Tony says, Phil, I did not buy any guitar or guitar-related accessories. Should I seek therapy? Maybe just bed rest. Have a great weekend, Phil. Best hour of the week. This one, 2 hours. No, nothing wrong with you, man. Now, you know what's funny is it's tough right now to justify purchases. I think that's I needed tools this week, and it took me 2 days. You ever do this, Tony, and you some of you guys? You ever put stuff in a cart, and then I don't know what it is. It's like it's not like it's not that I don't have the money to buy it. I just don't want to spend money. And so I had to buy a bunch of tools and stuff from Stu Mac. I had a 15% off coupon. And And as you guys know, anyone who's bought from StewMac knows, man, that thing is like godsend, first of all, because 15% is legit. And StewMac for a while wasn't running any sales. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to take credit for this. When I say credit, I mean a viewer. I'm pretty sure a viewer of this channel got them to do discounts. Because what's weird is I had a viewer come up to me and say, how come StewMac doesn't run any sales? So I sent Brock, the VP at StewMac, saying, hey, I have viewers saying they want sales. And he said, yeah, we haven't been doing those. And then all of a sudden I've been seeing more and more sales from StewMac. So I don't know, maybe it was from us. Maybe that's something we did. I hope so. So yeah, I bought stuff, but it took me 2 days. It sat in the cart for 2 days before I pulled the trigger. I just got an email today saying they shipped. So I have tools coming, more tools. And stuff. Harrison says, happy Friday, Phil. I'm picking up a used Custom 24 S2. So it's a Stephenville 2 in a few days. What do you think of the 8515S pickups versus the Big Brothers? Cheers. 8515S pickups, I like them. I don't love them. Nothing wrong with them. I have them in one of my S2s, and they're good. This being said, I have in the Somnium guitar, I'm doing the PRS 5708s, 5909s, and the metal pickups, and then I'm going to do the 8515Ss. And I wish I could compare the 8515Ss to the 8515s. I just don't have an ability to do that. I think I might have a set of 8515s. That would be an interesting video. That would be something I think you guys would be curious to do if I can do that. Let me see if I can do that one. But the 8515Ss, I like them. So what I'm saying is, it's not that I like the 8515s more than the 8515Ss. I think my favorite PRS pickup, I'm letting the cat out of the bag, by the way, is the metal pickups. Really shocked. Horrible name, metal. I was thinking the same thing you're probably thinking right now. Metal. Oh, I don't like high gain metal pickups. I don't know what it is. PRS doesn't, it's the weirdest name. Metal is not what I would describe to describe that pickup. So we will see, if you will. And is my screen? My screen won't move. Oh, there it is. It's because I leave these screens open too long, the Super Chat ones. Okay, Craig, these are my last two questions. Craig says, hey, Phil, can you recommend a pickup like a Gibson 498T, but just a little brighter? I don't know. Sadly enough, I'd love to recommend something. The 498T is a good pickup. I like it. I like the 57 Classic more. I can't tell you why. I just do. In Gibson pickups, I love burst buckers and 59. Or did I say 59 Classic? 57 Classic. I hope I said that right. 57. My favorite Gibson pickups right now, and have been for a long time, the burst buckers and the 57 Classics. I don't know what that is. So that's what I would recommend, but it's just a shot in the dark, man. There's no real logic to that. I'm trying to get my hands on a bunch of Gibson pickups and do some comparisons and get more kind of data and kind of be able to be versed more than that. But it's a little tough. It's a little tough right now. First of all, I reached out to Aljon and he's forwarded to Gibson. But really, right now, it's you guys know. I mean, Gibson and all those guys were closed for a while. So if they can't do it, I'll just figure it out on my own. As like all the videos I did with the pickups, I've been just doing it on my own. It's just the problem is it's a piecemeal because it costs a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's when I did the, you guys asked about doing Fishman. I did Fishman. It's just, there's no way, it's tough because like the Fishman pickups were like $230. And then I made the video made like $70. And then I sold the pickups to my friend for $150. So maybe I break even. You know what I mean? It gets a little tough to churn that out. So S. Hodges, but by the way, so not complaining, because the thing is, like I said, because of super chats like this, Patreons, I mean, there's support coming in all different ways. So it's not that I can't get it done. It's just it's a slow moving train. S. Hodges says Gibson and Fender did fine through the Super Strat era. Yeah, I don't think so. If what I remember about Gibson and Fender If I remember, and again, you could be right. Again, could be totally right. I'm just telling you what I think I remember. When I remember, because, and again, Super Strat era is a tough time, because you might be thinking of like Super Strat eras to some might be the early 80s, mid 80s. To me, it was like the mid to late 80s, because that's, what I remember. But let's say it was the 80s as a whole, the Super Strat era. By the end of the 80s, Gibson and Fender were done. You know what I mean? Let's be very clear. Fender and Gibson were going to be bankrupt and done by the 90s. If it wasn't for grunge, Gibson and Fender were probably going to be out of the game for the most part. No, I don't mean closed. I mean just, bankruptcy, reorganization, all kinds of problems. It was definitely, and so, not to give grunge credit too, because Slash definitely saved, I feel, Slash saved Gibson in the late 80s. By the late 80s, I mean, you had, everybody was buying Ibanez's, Kramer's, BC Rich's, Charvel's, Jackson's, you name it, that was out there. That BC Rich right there. By that time, and even BC Rich, it's tough because some of those companies were in trouble too in the late 80s too. But you get the idea. So yeah, it's possible. But man, I don't know. It was a horrible time. I think that's personally why, and in my opinion, I think Gibson bought Kramer and I think Fender bought Charvel Jackson in remembrance of when there was a time where those Super Strat brands were killing those guys. And I think they bought those brands as assurance to say, if that comes back, the trend comes back, they want to be no different than a record label going, okay, I'm going to sign some country acts and some metal acts and some rap acts. And no matter what, we'll probably have one of the things that are in trend. I think that was the logic at the time. So I think that's why they own those companies. So, all right. We did 2 hours. 2 hours, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I can't go anymore. My voice is gone. And I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. We didn't get to talk about Justin's thing. This is next week. Has to be. All right. As always, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. 2 hour episode. Thank you guys, everyone who supported the channel by watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. YouTube likes it if you hit the thumbs up and you subscribe. Believe it or not, YouTube is rewarding channels now. Thumbs down will actually apparently work too, but I'd rather not have those if I can help it. I guess I don't care deep down, but I also care a little. All right. Anyways, on that note, thank you guys, everyone hang out. I think we hit 800 and something people, which is always awesome. It's a crazy amount of guitar players to hang out. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. I have wine and cheese in my future, so I'm going to have a great weekend. And until next week, I'm going to say thank you for your time and know your gear.